Welcome to the Beauty Equation podcast, where beauty meets biology, psychology, and art history. This podcast is hosted by myself, Dr. Christelle Oliver-Dussault, Dr. Harpreet Lotay, and a beauty industry expert, Amanda Manholt. This is your space to reclaim agency over aging and beauty on your terms. We're cutting through the noise with evidence-based insights and real talk about aging, self-perception, and modern treatments. No quick fixes, no fluff. Just honest conversations to empower you to define beauty for yourself.
Welcome back to the Beauty Equation. I am Amanda Manholt, and I'm here with my two great friends.
I'm Harpreet Lotay.
And I'm Christelle Oliver-Dussault.
And today we are going to be talking about that hot topic, Ozempic face, which is kind of picking on Ozempic, really, because there are many other GLP-1 agonists out there. But that term has been thrown around quite a little bit lately. And I think people want to be in the know.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm holding out hope that I get Ozempic face, but it hasn't happened yet.
For people who have had fuller faces all their life, I guess that's what they're hoping for. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think we use the word Ozempic quite a lot because saying a GLP-1 agonist, as you said, Amanda, is a bit of a mouthful. And a lot of the other medications within that category will all have the generic names have quite complicated names, but essentially it finishes in aside. It's likely a GLP-1 agonist, and they all have very similar mechanism of actions, although there's some variability between them. We won't be going into that today, though. We're going to be focusing on what you see and what's been coming up in social media, and that's that face, those typical facial features that you'd notice when someone has been on that medication. And I might let yourself, Harpreet, start to talk about it, because I think you had a lot in your patient demographic showing some of those signs. And what were the first kind of things that you noticed?
Yeah, so when Ozempic and these rapid weight loss drugs came on the market, we started to see some changes in people's overall skin quality. So, there are changes that we see in the face just with rapid weight loss alone. So if you think about how much weight some of these people are losing in a 6 to 8 to 9 month period, it can be quite dramatic. So initially, I think that the medical community thought that this was just due to the rapid weight loss and change. Since then, I believe we have some ideas that there may be some other changes going on in skin quality. And so that's kind of where we're at. But when people first started being on these medications, I would notice that the skin lost a little bit of its luster and its elasticity, and people lost volume in their fat pads. And when we talk about volume loss in the fat pads, that's a marker for age. That's something that happens to us physiologically as we age. So naturally, if people are having these changes earlier on, sort of sped along by use of these GLP-1 medications, they start to look a little bit older. And, it's an unfortunate thing because many times people go on these medications to boost their confidence, to feel more like themselves, their clothes fit. Some people, of course, are using it to manage diabetes, but that side effect of losing weight is a very welcome one. And it's very unfortunate when they look in the mirror and they don't feel confident when they're seeing these changes that come on. So now that we understand that these changes do happen, we try to address that early on in the patient's journey. So if you do have an aesthetic physician that you're working with, you're going to be going on a GLP-1 or you are on a GLP-1, it's important to share it with your medical provider and talk about your options and how can you manage that as you continue on your weight loss journey.
I guess you could just put so much filler in your face that you look like a balloon on a chopstick. I mean, we've seen that.
We have. But as Dr. Lotay or Harpreet, you mentioned, there's two different things going on. There's that rapid weight loss, which we're not seeing as much because the protocols for weight management have improved, because a lot of times initially we were really basing it off how we prescribe in diabetics. And it's slightly different in our approach with obesity alone. And
Yes.
when you have that rapid weight loss, you mentioned that mid-face loss, it's about like a 7 to 11% fat pad loss just in the cheeks here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see me circling my cheeks.
Yeah.
But as you also mentioned, that skin quality was different. And I remember reading a few papers, and they've only kind of come out in the last year, talking about some of the mechanisms. And we initially thought, this is just a medication for diabetes and weight loss. But those GLP receptors, we have them everywhere, including our skin, on some of the fibroblasts, so those cells that will make collagen and elastin, and on some of the adipocytes, so fat cells that we have in our skin too. And some of the proposed mechanisms are that it stresses those cells out, so those cells don't work as well. There's more oxidation, and I think a lot of people have probably heard of oxidation or inflammaging, and it seems to speed up that process a little bit and reduce that quality and quantity of collagen and elastin that we have, which is where a lot of the bioregenerative medications and treatment protocols have come in when addressing that. And we were just at a talk recently, Harpreet, where we were going over some of those protocols. So some really interesting things that I know I picked up when we were at that training event.
Yeah.
Do you want to share
Yeah.
how you've addressed some of those changes for your patients?
Yeah. So first is having that conversation that the fibroblast, that your collagen will change, that you will have some changes in the fat pad. And, or depending on the patient's orientation in terms of how they want to address these things, that we can choose amongst the very, very different modalities for dealing with collagen and fibroblast stimulation. And some of those can be something as simple as stimulation with microneedling and then our lasers. But of course, that's not going to address the underlying fat pad loss and some of that sort of stressed fibroblasts and the decreased fibroblast activity. So we do have bioregenerative injectables that I do love to use that are very effective in stimulating those fibroblasts or those cells and really getting to some of the mechanisms that these drugs sort of work through in our skin. One of them is calcium hydroxyapatite, or CAHA. It's the same material that our bones are made out of. So when we inject these little smooth particles underneath the skin, they'll act like mechanical little stimulators for the fibroblasts and say, hey, wake up, let's make some collagen now. And it'll make some collagen, it'll make some elastin in the skin. You'll get improvement of the extracellular matrix. And depending on how we dilute the material, we can use it as a traditional filler. So many times people haven't been on a preventive protocol when they've started a GLP-1, and when they come in to see me, they're already at the point where they want to see immediate change. So I do love the ability to use this product to give immediate volumization, much like a traditional filler, but also stimulate the underlying skin and wake up those sleepy fibroblasts. And then we have Sculptra, which is PLLA. It's the material that we use for resorbable sutures. So it's something that's familiar to physicians, and it's been on the market for 30 years, as has calcium hydroxyapatite. So these PLLA particles work similarly, but they work through a different mechanism. They wake up the cells within the immune system and create this stimulation within the skin that makes the fibroblasts make collagen. So it's a very different mechanism to calcium hydroxyapatite, but it gives you the same increase in collagen and gives you a plumpness to the skin, and it gives you subtle volumization, but it takes a lot more time. So this is a product that you would want to lean on early in your journey if you wanted to manage and mitigate those changes overall. Both of them can be used similarly. They're both work very well in the right patients for sure.
Yeah. So one is more of an inflammatory pathway, the PLLA,
Yes.
and one is more of like a mechanical pathway, but has the
Yes.
added caveat that with different dilution can also take on properties of fillers. So two
Yes.
different tools, both equally as good depending on who's standing in front of you, and
Yes.
tailoring that to the person in front of you.
Yeah.
So, um, And then what about just traditional fillers? Is that something that you have used in patients who've presented with the classical Ozempic or GLP-1 agonist face?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So they're a tool that I don't think will ever leave our toolbox because they're amazingly effective and you can get extremely natural looking results and immediate results. So, yeah, absolutely, we would use it. So, I could see a situation where we might use um, traditional filler to give immediate volumization, and then something like PLLA to give skin boosting or hyperdilute radius. It really just depends. And now there are studied protocols that involve blending calcium hydroxyl apatite with hyaluronic acid based fillers and using it in this sort of blended methodology. So we're coming up with so many new ways to really rejuvenate the face and improve skin quality at the same time through injectables.
Yeah. So if you're someone, oftentimes what will happen is you're in your 50s, you've gone through menopause, you've noticed some metabolic changes, some weight gain, then you go on this medication and the weight starts to improve. But I don't know, you had this like 30% drop in collagen because of menopause. Now the rapid weight
Yeah.
loss and the effect that it has on your skin cells is making you feel like your face is aging faster than the rest of you. We have tools for
Yes.
that. And there's ways to address it. And I think the point that you made of if you know you're going on that medication and you have an aesthetic provider, it will be quite useful to start a conversation to plan it alongside when you are starting the medication and increasing the medication so that you don't have those drastic changes that you might find really upsetting. Some people don't find them upsetting, but some do. And there are tools if it is something that you think will bother you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope that was a good little primer that we gave you on Ozempic face, rapid weight loss, and use of GLP-1s. There's, of course, a lot more nuance to it, and maybe we'll do some further episodes depending on the interest. So if you have a burning question about the world of aesthetics, please do send it along to us, info@thebeautyequation.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we look forward to connecting with you next time on The Beauty Equation.
Until next time, take care.
Before we wrap up, just a quick reminder. While we're medical professionals, everything shared on The Beauty Equation is for informational purposes only and isn't intended as medical advice. This podcast doesn't establish a doctor-patient relationship, and any medical or aesthetic decision should always be made with a qualified healthcare provider. Our views are our own and don't necessarily reflect those of our employers or affiliated organizations. And remember, the field of aesthetics is always evolving, so information may change over time. See you next time on The Beauty Equation.
Thank you for tuning in today. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who might need to hear it too. We'd love to hear your thoughts or questions. You can send us an email at info@thebeautyequation.com. and you might hear your question answered in future episodes. You can also find us on Instagram at Dr. Christelle MD, at H. Lotay MD, and at Crow's Feet in Confidence. Until next time, keep questioning the equation.